readjust your clutch, you need to come in here and on the clutch cable, I don't know how well you can see there, there's this boot. You need to work that boot up to reveal the adjustment screw. You need to loosen the lock nuts, this one against this one, dial this one up, and loosen this cable until you get a lot of play in your clutch lever. Okay? Alright, once you have that lock nut there loose, you can dial it up. And then you want to, all the way, and then you want to loosen this up. This will put a lot of play in your clutch lever. You can see this clutch lever has got all kinds of play in it. So that's kind of good. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and release the clutch adjustment screw, loosen it up, but first we need to loosen this lock nut on the outside and then dial the screw out and then back in. I like to use an offset box wrench, that way it kind of fits around the nut nice and squarely. So, you may have to hold the clutch in place with the ounce, because loosening this is sometimes a little tight. There we got it now. Okay. So we just dial this out, and then with this one, what you want to do is you want to dial this in until just you feel a light amount of pressure. Okay. You can see it's very loose. Light amount of pressure. Now we're using this hole as my alignment point. I will then dial it off 1/2 turn. Okay, and then you want to tighten the lock nut while you're holding the clutch locking screw in position, adjustment screw in position. Be adjusted. Then take this and take the clutch lever and pull it in and out 3 or 4 times just to be sure the ball seat's in there. Okay, now when we readjust this clutch lever, the gap between this clutch nut and this housing, when between this clutch nut and this housing here, when the nut's tightened, should be about a 1/16 of an inch, or maybe about the thickness. You can see right now I haven't tightened it yet. There's much more clearance in there than what there needs to be. So you pretty much want about the thickness of a dime in there. It's a little tricky because the clutch cable itself is bent. I mean, it's curved, so it wants to tilt the nut to one side. But ultimately you need to adjust that so there's about that gap. That'll set up how much play is in your lever. Okay. Alright, once you come around here, dial this thing down as I have here to get it just about right, and you check the clutch gap on the top as I mentioned before, and then you can go ahead and tighten this nut down against it, this lock nut. And then go ahead and take a 9/16 here and a 1/2 inch here and snug them up. Alright, I got the nut snugged up, and now all I want to do is make sure I get this boot here pushed down over the nut so that it doesn't have to do some twisting there and getting it down so that it's protected from the elements. Alright, you can see I got it all nicely covered, and that there is buttoned up. Alright, well, now you want to go ahead and put your drain screw back in, because you don't want to forget about that. That could be not a good situation. All your clean oil will just drain out the bottom if you don't put that back in. Go ahead and clean this best you can. Get all the loose oil and maybe some dirt that may have accumulated there. Go ahead and put your drain plug back in. I have seen some thread sealing on some of these when I pull it off from the dealer, but I don't typically use it, and I haven't needed it. There's a torque spec for this. Let me see what it is. I don't remember what it is. I just make it kind of loosely snug. Try to wrench down on it too tight to make sure that it's loosely snug in there. It pretty much won't leak. I'm going to strip it out. Alright, once you got all that taken care of, the next step is to go ahead and put some oil in. Typically, it takes a whole quart of oil in there. It says 32 ounces. Just to be sure it's right, after I pour the oil in, I went ahead and made up these paper strips that show me that I could slide in here, and they show me exactly how the depth of the oil from the center of the screw. It's supposed to be 2 3/4 inches from the center of that to the depth of that screw, and because the paper shows the oil very easily, it's very easy to tell. You do want to have the bike level as best as possible. I don't have an assistant, but if someone can sit on it for you, that's probably best. I like to go and make my own funnel because I can get a little bit more precise about exactly where it goes in there. No big deal. I just roll up a piece of scrap paper and start pouring it in. Alright, now I got that in there. I'm going to go ahead and check it, check the depth of it. In there till I'm centered on the 0 center on the screw. And it's right there at 2 3/4. Right there. Okay, one thing you want to do is you want to make sure you get all the oil out of this groove. This will keep the oil from seeping out once you assemble everything back together. You'll be forever chasing that problem if you don't take care of it now.